Live from the Pitch Pad in New York City. Get ready to unleash your inner entrepreneur with Pitch Live with Amy Summers. Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or just dipping your toes into the Shark Tank, this is the place to be to discover how to turn your pitch into reality. Fasten your seatbelts, pitch stars, because the spotlight is on you and we are about to make success happen. On this episode of Pitch Live,
there's so many just prime opportunities. If you're going to staff photo shoot, you're going to a cocktail party for the opening of a building or something like that. So many of my friends have just landed jobs that they weren't even looking for because they were being respectful to some of their clients' partners and they thought of them 2 years down the road. So you really never know who you're going to meet. I'm like, go and be nice. That's it. That's all you have to do.
Get ready for Pitch Live in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Pitch Live. I'm your host, Amy Summers, founder and president of Pitch Publicity and Vox. I'm also a hardworking entrepreneur who is passionate about helping you reach success in any area of your life. And I know that this is possible after decades of experience in perfecting, well, I didn't perfect that part, but in perfecting the pitch and enhancing communication skills, which is why I'm here today and joined by Ellie Howell, who is one of our former and forever pitch stars, who first joined Pitch Publicity as an intern during the pandemic at the start of 2020. Now, I'm going to give you a little bit more background on Ellie, but she doesn't know I'm going to do this. I do have a quick fire round of questions for you because I would like to have everyone get to know you before I formally introduce you. So I'm going to ask some questions. There's only 2 answers. Don't think about it. Just pick one.
Okay.
Ready?
Yes.
Okay. New York City or Miami Beach?
Miami Beach.
Pizza or pasta?
Pizza.
Phone call or email?
Phone call.
Oh, I like that. Dog or cat?
Cat.
Did I give away with your background? I didn't know you were going to have that. All right. Rent or buy?
Buy.
Ah, okay. So the first time I met Ellie was during a group Zoom interview I was running to recruit college students for an internship program we co-hosted with the University of Florida's Gator Alumni Clubs. And after 2 semesters of interning in this program that focused largely on social media strategy, Ellie transitioned to a publicist role at Pitch Publicity to develop her media relations skills, pitching journalists and various clients, and she is really good at it. She wrapped up her internship with us by spending the summer of 2021 here in New York City for our internship immersion program, and then she graduated Magna Cum Laude from University of Florida in August of 2021 with a degree in public relations and a minor in event management. Since her time with us, Ellie's career has skyrocketed. She's landed her first PR job in New York at the New York-based Quinn PR, and then went on to work with RBB Communications in Miami. Today, she's an account executive at the New York-based M18 PR, a firm specializing in ultra-luxury hospitality and real estate. She's a proud South Florida native. Ellie has been based in Miami, even with these New York firms that she's worked for, since they also have offices in Miami, too. So welcome, Ellie.
Thank you so much for having me, Amy. I'm great to be here.
And I'm so proud to see you continue to make bold moves in your career, just still so early on. And I love to see that you're pitching media and still MSH, making shit happen, making success happen. All right, so let's get into it. So as I mentioned, you started interning with us through the University of Florida Alumni Program. And you worked with the Las Vegas Gator Club to run their social media campaigns. I want to know, what did you learn from that experience? Because in that program, we had like a group meeting once a month, but I kind of just threw you all at the assignment and you had to deal with the club leadership. It was in a different state. What was that experience like for you? What did you learn from it?
I think that was a great first experience in client management. That's definitely something that you carry through with you no matter what agency you're at, what firm you're at. I feel like in any professional field, if clients are involved, that's a necessary tool to have. And that's definitely probably the primary skill that I picked up on there. Simply because in my role with the Las Vegas Skater Club, of course, as you mentioned, there was a time difference. And when you are the one servicing, providing the work, generating results for the account, whatever the client is, you're the one that's guiding them. They shouldn't have to be chasing behind you to see what you're doing, what you're up to. You need to set expectations. You need to set deadlines, goals, and these types of things, of course, meet them. But they've kind of brought you on for your expertise. So you're the one that needs to get the ball rolling and making sure that the things that need to happen are happening. So definitely client expectations, how to manage them, how to hold their hand through some things, all of those little tiny tidbits that make you a really great professional.
I remember that about the Las Vegas Club especially. I was actually surprised that they participated in our program because they were one of the clubs. I was on the board of directors for the Alumni Association, and they were one of my clubs that we didn't hear from that often. And so when they said, "Oh yeah, we want an intern," I was like, "Oh no!" Like I don't know. They don't hardly even answer their emails. And I kind of remember you coming to me very early on when we started working with them, asking like, "What do I do?" And I'm like, "Just take control." And you did. I remember one time the president of the Las Vegas club, his name is Kevin. He's like, "Yeah, Ellie's just like running our club." I'm
Yeah.
like, "She is?"
That was basically how it went. Yeah, I was kind of like, "Hey, I'm doing this." And it's like, "All right, great. Love to see it. I like what you've done with this." But some clients will be a little bit more nitpicky with how they want things done. In my experience, the majority of them are kind of like, "Yeah, like, this is kind of our goal far off in the future. We don't really know how to get there, but maybe you can tell us how to do that." So that was a really great first experience because that's definitely how it was.
Yeah, I mean, a great confidence booster, and probably I can see where it's helping you now. That's really great. All right, so then you started working at Pitch. You were pitching media. Do you have a pitching moment or a proud pitching moment that you remember from that internship?
Probably the success that we saw when we were pitching Hall of Fame Danny Werfel. That's something that I still list on my resume, like as a trophy client. That's something that I put in my portfolio. I still saved and downloaded the links to the coverage, and I made sure to save it as an MP4 too, so that I can link back to it once it's expired on their website. Um, just because you definitely have respect and you want to get the best results for any client that you have, but of course, people care about legitimacy. So to have a name that people, especially people in the sports world, the football world, already know and resonate with, it generates a little bit more trust. It is a little bit easier. And especially being in college still, I was like, wow, like this is super cool. I never really, because I'd had internships before, but I never really thought it would be for a person or a company that wasn't quite so hyper local until I graduated. So that was a really awesome experience.
I remember your first campaign as I was flipping through your schedules and getting ready for this that I gave you was with Dr. Ken Redcross. Um, what did and that was health. You know, you were pitching health. And I know you even got to meet him when you came here during the summer. What was it like pitching for the first time? What did that feel like? Did you instantly kind of like it, or did it kind of need to grow on you a little bit? What do you remember about it?
It was nerve-wracking. It was completely nerve-wracking. I remember feeling a little bit anxious and a little bit scared, just with how I was wording things, how I was coming off. Am I persuasive enough? And not even am I persuasive enough, is the way that I'm wording my message getting across to the person that it needs to come across to? Is it resonating to them? Because it sounds great to me, but I'm not the one that the pitch needs to land with. So those were all of my little anxieties, but I really, really liked it. And that's kind of why I've stuck with media relations, especially throughout my career, because that's one of my favorite parts of public relations.
So, you've worked for several firms now. I always tell students this. I probably told you this too. That getting media coverage is a real resume booster. But you tell me, since you've been out there more recently than I have, did it help to have all those media interviews that you had booked? Did that help you in the interview process? And how did it help you?
Absolutely. That was probably the biggest strength that I had and continue to have going into any interview, and that's advice that I give to some of my peers, some of my sister's friends in college that are majoring in the same thing, and she'll let them reach out to me, just for some advice or some guidance. Just being able to list that you already know how to talk to a reporter, whether it's on the phone, whether it's via email, that you already have, a semblance of an idea of how to draft a pitch, and that's not something that someone's going to have to train you on from ground zero, is it's incredible. So I'm super grateful that I had that experience even before I left college and being able to do that.
How have so you're pitching now. How have you evolved since pitch? What are you doing now that's really working strategy wise?
I put so much more of my personality into all of my communications. And that's something that one of my earlier bosses, after you, but earlier in my real professional career, really encouraged me to do, because she was like, you don't have to be so stiff. There's a human being on the other end of the computer, on the other end of the phone. She's like, I use smiley faces sometimes in an email. And that was kind of mind blowing to me, that I'm like, I can use an exclamation mark more than once in an email, but I am like a smiley, upbeat kind of person. And she's like, it's a little bit jarring to see your communications and then see how you are as a person. I think that you might get better results if, of course, you maintain professionalism, but you're not afraid to show enthusiasm. You're not afraid to show, if you're excited about something, because then it gets, the other person excited too. So definitely just being more personable and like myself than trying to be however I thought a publicist should be.
Can you give us an example of a time that you were more personalized, more relaxed, more yourself, and you scored something because of it?
Yes, actually. So,
Put you on the spot.
no, it's okay. I was trying to think of a good example, but actually, this opportunity that I secured somewhat recently, it was a bit convoluted. It's with the Times. I won't say what the story is because I'm not sure when it's going to run. But this reporter is a bit hard to pin down. So I wasn't really making any headway via email. I started stalking her a little bit on LinkedIn and her muck rack, which, if anyone watching is unfamiliar with muck rack, highly vouch for them. It's a really, really great resource, because a lot of times journalists and reporters will put their preferred notes, like, I like to be contacted in the morning, or I don't respond to things that are longer than 3 sentences. So help yourself. Definitely check out their muck rack page if you have one. But I did a little bit of stalking, kind of learned how her brain worked a little bit. And then in knowing how she liked to operate, and knowing that this story wanted to feature residents, again, I work in real estate, wanted to feature residents in that story, looking at our arsenal of people that were willing to talk, I was like, all right, let me narrow this down and make it super easy for her, and pick someone that I know that she's going to have a good phone conversation with, that she's going to get a lot of information out of, and that's going to make it much more likely that my residents' quotes and comments are actually going to make it into this article, instead of just picking the first person or the first person available on this list. So it's little things like that that actually helped us get it over the finish line.
Nice. Now, you mentioned stalking techniques, which is something I taught you way back when. I'm so glad you're still using that word. Can you, first of all, let's tell everybody, just in case they don't know, what do we mean by when we're stalking journalists? What are we doing exactly? And can you give us some examples of stalking techniques that you use that are helpful? I know you mentioned muckrat, but maybe some others.
Yeah, it's just the detective work. It's all the little research and groundwork when you're writing a paper. So, not necessarily related to PR, but if you're writing a paper on photosynthesis, you're going to go crack open a book, you're going to go online, check out some resources, find all the information you can in order to write your paper. So, pitching a journalist or a reporter, you're going to do a bit of stalking. You're going to check out their Twitter, their LinkedIn, their muck rack. And not only those little things too, and looking at their bios or their past career experience, but actually read the stories that they've written. If you're pitching them on a story on the tallest buildings in Brickell, and they just wrote that story last week, not only are you shooting yourself in the foot for getting the story placed, they probably won't want to work with you anymore, because they're like, this person doesn't know who I am. They don't keep up with what I'm writing about. You kind of soured them. So just making sure, again, you're pitching them at the time of day that they want to be pitched. If they have that written somewhere, just finding out everything you can except for their social security number really goes a long way.
So the firm that you're at now really specializes in real estate and luxury high living. in the realm of journalists in that arena, since they're so specialized, do you find that that world's really small as far as journalists go? Like, you kind of know everybody now, or is it really big and it's hard to keep up with, and it's a, like, kind of a revolving door? What is it more like?
So the landscape for this vertical is a little bit complex. As we keep up with the news cycles, we notice that there's a lot of publications that are shuttering, their editorial teams are kind of shrinking. So if they had a real estate reporter and it wasn't a real estate focused publication, sometimes that person isn't there anymore. So in a way, it is a little bit smaller, but at the same time, that's where you kind of get creative. So it's like, maybe we're not going to pitch this building based on its stats and square footage, things that a real estate trade publication would care about. Maybe it has the first pickleball court in Wynwood. So now we're going to go to lifestyle publications or travel publications and kind of expand our reach, because then our client is still placed in that story, even though it's not strictly a real estate story. So yes and no to answer your question.
I like that. So trying to find other platforms that it may be a good fit with.
Exactly.
Is there an example that you have of one that you did like that recently? Is the pickleball a real example?
Pickleball is a story that we are working on right now just because it is super hot. Even though you heard it here first, if you haven't heard of padel or paddle, depending on where you're from, how you pronounce it, that's the new pickleball. So definitely jump on
Okay.
that if you're not aware. But especially something that we've all kind of put our heads together at my firm recently is surrounding private chefs, just because my projects are so ultra luxury. These aren't places that your average Joe can walk in and eat at. So your publications like a Time Out or a Thrillist or an Eater isn't going to cover it, because they're like, we can't eat here. This is only for residents. So then you kind of have to go ahead and, all right, let's brainstorm, let's get creative. How can we still get this covered when these foodie publications aren't that interested in it? And then that's where you look and see, all right, the chef has Michelin stars. He's a James Beard Award winner. He's a celebrity in his own right. Are celeb publications going to care about this? And that's where we tend to start finding some success. It's like, all right, look at this major celebrity. Oh, and he's also opening this restaurant at such and such project. And we still get our little insert and mention.
I like that. That's great. Now, I recently had you come speak at one of our pitch team meetings. You came back as alumni. I often do that. And you brought up something that I wanted to address here today, and because I thought it was a really good strategy and technique. Tell us about your FYI pitch emails. What are those, and when do you use that strategy?
So I've kind of expanded on my FYI emails. So now there's an introductions exclamation point component to it too. But I think it's really great, especially when you're scrolling through like LinkedIn or any of your news feeds, Twitter, something like that, and you see that someone new has joined. I love to send like a little introduction note, not even pitching them anything. Hey, I see that you're the new editor for Palm Beach Cottages and Gardens. I just wanted to let you know, because I work in this beat. Here's a client list. I would love to take you out for coffee. I'd love to take you out for lunch. Maybe just not even strictly talking business and that type of thing, but I know everyone can relate to this. Starting a new job anywhere, you feel a little bit out of your element. So to be that one person that's not bombarding you right off the bat, it's like, okay, I can go to Ellie and just ask her, like, what do people normally do? Like renderings, like you can kind of start guiding them, especially when they're setting up how they want to run their magazine and that kind of thing. They'll come to you and think of you. Hey, I'm writing a story about Brickell. What clients do you have? Now I don't even have to pitch this person. They're thinking of me proactively. So it's kind of the same thing with FYI emails that you kind of brought up. Not outright asking them, hey, is this a fit in an upcoming segment? Is this a fit in an upcoming magazine? It's just, hey, this is something that our clients have done recently. This is a loan that they've secured. I just wanted you to be aware because I know you keep up with this news. And
I
not,
like that.
an outright hard ask.
I like the introduction too. So, like when you do see a new editor in your space, real estate or luxury living, and you see them on LinkedIn, do you connect with them on LinkedIn as well and do the same type of, hi, this is who I am.
Absolutely.
Hi, it's me, Ellie.
Absolutely. I definitely connect with them. And that's what goes back to the stalking. I'll look at where they're based. I'm like, oh, you're also based in Miami. I'm close to the Wynwood area. I really like this certain spot, this coffee spot, whatever. Like, you're close by. Do you want to get coffee sometime? Do you want to get lunch sometime?
I have to ask you because that's such an old school thing that you're doing, inviting them to coffee or lunch. Has anyone taken you up on these offers?
Yes.
Really?
Yes, yes.
So journalists in this space aren't like, no, there's a line we cannot accept favors.
It's not a favor because it's not a gift or something physical that I'm giving them. Some of our clients will try to give us a swag bag with like their water bottle and their logo printed on it and a bag and this and like they can't accept that. But just like something under $20, $30 coffee, some of them will have a budget up to $50 where it's like okay with them. So that's where coffee, lunch, dinner, no. But small things like that, most of them are happy to get away from their desk.
And we have a guest on our show now with Ellie. So I hope you're watching YouTube. No, I like it. I did this yoga with a YouTube yoga instructor, and every once in a while her cat just walks in, and I love it. So if you are not listening to us on YouTube, you are missing the show behind Ellie. It's going to get really exciting in a minute.
So sorry. She'll yell if I put her in another room. So
No, I love it. It actually calms me down. I don't know what it is about cats. Okay, so back to the coffee, taking people out. Well, since you're into properties and some of these properties have locations, do you take them to the property to have the coffee or the lunch typically?
yeah, so that's definitely something that we are open to doing if they have a sales gallery already open. The majority of my projects are currently under construction, so there's not a space. Their restaurant, if they have one, is not open yet. But something that we are in the works of doing for one of my North Miami clients is setting up day in the life experiences because it is already open. It's a rental. So giving them like a comped meal at the restaurant that just opened up. They have a lagoon on property. So it's like, hey, like this is something we're in the talks with the development team. Can we let them bring their kids? And do like, yeah, like what is it like to live at XYZ property and give them a whole spread of the day of the amenities and everything. So when it works out, yes, because most of them are under construction, usually no.
And it's so great to meet, I think, journalists in person and to have that connection. I've always found that they are pretty intimidating sometimes on the phone, but whenever you meet them, it's just kind of like, oh, you're not so scary. Have you had that same experience?
Definitely. And I wouldn't even say sometimes they come across as, or they do come across as scary, but then when you meet them in person, you realize they're not even trying to be intimidating. They're a bit frazzled. I've looked at in some of these people's inboxes and I'm like, you have like 500 emails a day. Like, no wonder you're missing some of the things that I send you. And that's where it comes back around to taking them out for like a lunch or a coffee. They see your face. They start recognizing your name when it comes up in your inbox. They might skip over a bunch of other people's, but click on yours because you've strengthened that bond. It's like, all right, now we know each other on a personal level. They're a bit nicer to you as well. So instead of ignoring a pitch that you might send them, they'll actually respond and be like, hey, it's not a fit for me right now. So even if they're not going to cover it, they'll at least get back to you.
Okay, so knowing that their email boxes get filled and they're busy, I'm sure you've had many situations where you have to follow up and follow up and follow up, and this can get a little bit tiresome. Can you walk me through how you follow up when you're not getting responses, and when do you decide, okay, I'm done following up with this person, I'm just not hearing from them? So, like, how many rounds do you typically do, and how are those what are you doing each time that's different?
Normally, I'll follow up 2 or 3 times, and it's not regurgitating the same things that I had in the previous email. So if, let's say it's a designy pitch and I called out a lot of things in the kitchen, the countertops are quartz, stainless steel, whatever, and that's not really landing, I might go do a little bit more digging and I'm like, all right, is this the architect or the interior designer's first project in Florida, in Miami? Can I make this superlative-y now where it's like, all right, this is the first of its kind in some type of way? Trying to find another angle where it's the same topic that I'm pitching, but it's like, all right, maybe they'll bite on this. And if I'm not hearing back from this particular person, and again, this is where stalking comes back in, because some reporters, they all collaborate and have pitch meetings, so they all know what each other is working on. other publications, it's not like that. Everyone is working a little bit siloed. They're kind of all tunnel vision doing their same thing. So if I know that that is how that particular reporter's team is, I'll pitch someone else there. I'm like, I know that you're not in contact with your coworkers. I'm going to pitch someone else. Maybe someone else will cover it and they'll like it. If I do know that they all talk, of course, I would not want to do that. That looks really, really bad going behind their back. But again, it is doing your homework and figuring out, all right, what might resonate with them to get this covered.
I like that. I want to talk to you a little bit about the whole job search process because you've had a few and you're still early in your career. And I think that a lot of your information will be really relevant to a lot of people that listen or watch to this podcast. But I remember when you were here in New York, we were celebrating the end of your internship with Pitch, but at the same time, we were also celebrating your first job at Quinn PR. And it was so funny because we were on the rooftop at the refinery, and I was like, "Ellie, right across the street is your new job." It was just like serendipitous. It was a great moment. I'll never forget it. But when you were interning with me at that time, I remember I was helping you on your job search. We would go back and forth. You would say, like, what would you do now? And this is the response I got. And it wasn't anything formalized, but it was because of you that I did formalize a program afterwards because I saw what great success you had. And I was like, oh, I could do this for other people, just be more formal about it. But now looking back, because I still get a lot of questions from students about this that are in their senior year. When is the best time when you're graduating college to start a job search? And knowing what you know now, would you have done anything differently?
I wouldn't start too early, which I feel like might contradict advice that other people might give, just because the job market is a little finicky right now, and a lot of people are looking, and places that are actually hiring want someone to start relatively quickly. So if you're still a student, you can't really start for another, 6 months maybe. But at the same time, I feel like once you hit like that 3-month mark before graduation, that's when you should start looking because by the time you go through rounds of interviews, by the time you take a writing test, 2 months have gone by. And you don't want to wait until it's a week before graduation to start sending out your first applications because if you're a spring graduate, it might be fall that you start hearing back from people. Um, and I think with that too, any internships that you did, not only putting them on your resume, because I'm sure that's something that everybody already knows how to do, but actually quantifying what you did. Something that I tell all of my friends that work in the same space is go beyond a resume or a cover letter. For my current role, I made a whole portfolio. And of course, pitch was included on there too, but I took every major role that I had where I actually did some type of pitching or media relations and linked back to the coverage and sent that with my resume because you're giving yourself a leg up. It's here's what I've already done. I already kind of know what, the duties are of this job description. Here's the proof. Here's my results. You're kind of skipping over some of the preliminary questions that they might be asking you.
Mhm.
And you're really cutting yourself some slack and doing yourself a favor by actually showing and not telling what you can do.
I like that. So 3 months before graduation, start the search. And then I like that you gave those specific things about the resume. Is there any other specific actions that helped you land your first job? Like, okay, so you do the interview. Was there any follow-up you did after that that was helpful?
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you see yourself working there or you're even the slightest bit interested, I don't see a reason why you shouldn't be sending a thank you note, asking what next steps are. It shows that, again, you are proactive, you are a go-getter. It shows your interest. If they just hear crickets from you and they were already lukewarm about you from the interview, you're probably not going to ever hear from them again. A thank you note goes a really, really long way. Um, and also doing some research before you get into that first interview as to like who the person is that you're going to be speaking with. If it's the hiring manager, this advice is a little less relevant. But if it's like the partner or a director that's interviewing you and you might be working under them, see what their background is. Like, what do they actually do? Like, know a little bit about them before you just go in blind.
Yeah, I agree with you on the thank you note. I'm really surprised how many people do not do it. And it's so easy. Even if you just Even you just send an email, you can't even say the excuse, I don't have their email. Send it to whoever you sent your resume to, say, please forward this. Someone will forward it along, but I agree with you 100%. If I'm lukewarm on somebody and I get a thank you note, they go straight to the top every single time.
Yep.
So I think it's partly because my generation, it was required that we did thank you notes. I mean, we were told to bring them with us and to put them in the mailbox as soon as we left the interview. So I think for my generation, when we don't get one, it's like, hey, you're supposed to do that. And so,
It's a lost art.
yes, for sure. All right. So, can you share? I want to talk about networking a little bit. So, at this stage of your career, how important is networking? And who do you network with the most right now?
I would say networking is super important in this industry, no matter what stage of your career that you are in, especially in Miami. I like to say to, my sister's friends that are thinking about going into public relations, I'm like, there's kind of 4 or 5 major cities in the US where you can really kill it in PR, and that's LA, New York, Miami, Chicago, maybe Atlanta, maybe Boston, maybe San Francisco, but those are kind of like the core 4. Especially down here in Miami, it's a small pond. No matter what job I've been at, I've met coworkers that are friends with or have worked with my past coworkers, bosses that used to work with each other at a certain firm. Like everyone kind of knows everyone. And that's where, again, being professional, being respectful, being a good human being is really important, because whatever someone has to say about you, that's going to follow you. Like everyone knows everyone. So if you are rude, it's going to travel around. Like your reputation really, really matters. So even with networking, it's easy in some ways, um, because as I said, everyone knows everyone. So if you need to get in contact with someone else, it's likely that someone at your firm already knows that person. But even showing up, it's the little things like showing up to conferences. So if one of my clients is speaking at a forum, yes, I should go to support them because, I probably got them the speaking role on that panel. But then you have to think there's going to be so many other publicists here too. And we're all just sitting there waiting while these people are speaking, or waiting in the interim. Like it can't hurt just to talk to them, see what's going on with them. There's so many just prime opportunities. If you're going to staff photo shoot, you're going to a cocktail party for the opening of a building or something like that. So many of my friends have just landed jobs that they weren't even looking for because they were being respectful to some of their clients' partners, and they thought of them 2 years down the road. So you really never know who you're going to meet. I'm like, go and be nice. That's it. That's all you have to do.
Be kind.
Exactly.
Do you find it difficult to network with other PR professionals within your own industry, especially like competitors? Are people standoffish, and how do you kind of break the ice?
Some are a little standoffish. Um, I'm like a kill 'em with kindness kind of person. And even if someone's being rude to my face, I pretend like I don't even realize. You play a little bit dumb and you continue being really, really nice, because usually they'll back down, because it's like, all right, I'm just being rude for no reason now. It's not landing with this person. I'm not making like a dent in their armor. Um, don't stoop to their level. Like if you're gonna be cold to me, like that's totally fine. As I mentioned, it's a really small pond. There might come a day where you need me for something, and I'm gonna remember that.
So give me some, because you're really good at this. Give me some techniques for all of us. If someone, you're in a group, you're networking, someone either speaks over you or kind of dismisses you, and I don't know, it's kind of making you look really bad in front of everyone else. What do you do in that situation? Do you walk away? Do you get louder? What do you do?
It really depends. You have to read the room. So if it's a client, that kind of cut me off, of course, my lips are zipped. I'm very respectful. I let it happen. If, they would rather speak to my boss over me, of course, if I have something to say. And this is again where I've been super lucky working under the incredible people that I've worked under. When they see it happen, just because they are supportive of the people working under them, they were in our spot once. My boss will continue talking, saying what she's saying, and then say, well, Ellie can speak more to this. So you kind of help each other out. So when I see it happen to someone, I'll kind of find a way to get them back into the conversation, knowing that like the people that I'm with in that group, they'll do the same for me.
I like that.
Yeah.
Very good. I'm glad you have continued to have some good mentors and bosses where you've been. That's good to hear. I want to go back in time one more time. We're kind of getting close to the end. But I do remember when you were interning with us, we were working on, we were producing actually a seminar series for a UC Vox called Elephant in the Room. And it was really focused on addressing workplace racism. I remember Ladora was working with me on that and I was having you participate. But how did that experience impact you as a student? And I'm just curious because since you participated, we had just for everyone that doesn't know, we had many professionals participate in this panel, and they were from different fields within the communication. So we had like advertising, PR, news media, but all different industries like sports and fashion and entertainment speak. And they were giving the students advice about just how they communicate and handle things as it relates to the topic of racism within the workplace. Now that you've been out for a while, did any of that stick with you? Any of their advice? Any of that mentorship from just attending that series? Did any of it stick with you? Do you use any of it?
Absolutely. I mean, obviously being a Black woman in any white collar profession, I feel like at this point, you're going to stand out a little bit. I'm very lucky that I work in PR, that there are a lot of women working in the field, but still, as a person of color, you stand out for better or for worse. So I really appreciated being able to sit in on a conversation like that while I was so young, because those are conversations that we need to have more, that I feel like the younger generations might be a little bit more aware of it. But especially speaking to people that are older than me, it's kind of not even realized that these are things that we need to bring up at all. And that's a little bit shocking to me because for me, obviously, race is always at the foreground or the forefront of my life. But when I guess you aren't as affected by those things, you don't really think about it. You don't really think about communication styles or, maybe business practices and how that affects your own employees. And it's not malicious. You just don't realize because you don't think about it. So I think just starting having those conversations is super helpful to someone like me.
How do you know when a company, and I'm just talking, I mean, we're not talking about any of your companies, but how would you advise somebody to know if a company is a right fit for them? Maybe they go to an interview and they're not really feeling seen, but gosh, they really need to get a job. Do you just push through and get that job anyway? Or how do you know if it's right for you? And what should somebody look for when they're interviewing with companies as far as making sure that they land somewhere where they're going to be in a supportive environment?
Honestly, trusting your gut is the biggest thing. There's been so many times in my life where my gut is telling me, like, I don't like this, but I'm like, I can't find a tangible reason why I shouldn't do this. And I end up doing it. And then I find the reason. So honestly, trusting your gut, you can reach out and talk to other people that might work there and get their perspective because a firsthand experience is invaluable. But honestly, and not speaking from personal experience, because I wouldn't want to put myself in that position, but I know of a lot of people who thought that they were joining a company for XYZ reasons, and it turned out that it was like a bit of a facade. It wasn't really that way. They felt really uncomfortable there. And my advice, if you end up in that situation, is you're not married to this job. Like, you applied and got this job, you interviewed for it. You can do the same thing again and apply and get a different job. Don't stay in a toxic situation.
Mm-hmm. So much great advice. Ellie, thank you for joining us today. How
Worse.
can people get in touch with you? Because you are just a wealth of information, and I know you're human and sociable, and you want to be connected to other people that are too. How do they get connected to you?
Yes, please add me on LinkedIn, Ellie Howell with 3 L's, I want to say. Same headshot is up on LinkedIn, so you'll see my face. I add basically everyone back, and I'm super responsive on there. Shouting out Diego, because he just reached out to me this morning on LinkedIn.
Good. I told him to. I said, I'm prepping for Ellie, and you are both in Miami, and she apparently takes people out to coffee all the time. So,
Yes. So definitely add me on LinkedIn. I will add you back and we can chat there.
I mean, we have the University of Florida, but we also have Pitch Publicity alumni too. Don't
Like, we're
forget.
both pitch stars. I'm like, we are. Connect.
All right, that's great. I'm so happy to hear that. You just made my day. All right, well, thank you so much. I know you have inspired so many people. You've inspired me. So I hope that you will continue to inspire others. And I want to encourage everyone to share this episode so we can get more people exposed to Ellie and all the great things that she's doing. Follow her on or connect with her on LinkedIn. We're going to have all her socials and my socials in the show notes. And thank you for joining us on this episode of Pitch Live with Amy Summers. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and give us a rating or review. Your feedback helps us plan future episodes. I hope you were inspired today to get out there and pitch somebody and be human, like Ellie is telling us to do. Also, advocate for yourself. Listen to that internal voice. I totally agree with you. There's so many times I did not do that, and I really had to hit myself for not doing it. And when you do, you always see why you followed those directions later.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. As a bonus, join us on Inisi Vox, where you can get motivated, hone your communication skills, spend as much mentorship as you want. You can see the Elephant in the Room series that we're talking about with Ellie today there. The link's going to be in the show notes with all of our links. And oh my gosh, this was so much fun catching up with you, Ellie.
I had fun.
You're going to be such a superstar. Oh, you are a superstar. You're going to be mega superstar. We'll have to do this interview in another 5 years and see where you are.
Thank you so much for having me, Amy.
All right. Keep MSH. Make sure happen. Bye.
Bye.